Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Tour Championship Data Dive Show. Got a lot to get into. We have 4 years of staggered scoring format leaderboards to take a look at, see if we can decipher what metrics, perhaps some filters, and which players we want to focus on for our wagers and our DFS lineups this week as we dig deep into the data. I do have one update to the shout out list. Gabe let me know that he had a tiers contest or tiers lineup that finished third in a contest. Said it brought him to a profitable week, if I could talk. So congratulations, Gabe, on your very successful lineup, joining Dave, my friend, who had the outright on Victor Hovland. And a reminder, if you had success for the BMW or in any other endeavor, and you are a member of this community, whether it's fantasy football, fantasy baseball, golf, anything, let me know. I would love to be able to shout out members of the community who have success every week. But with that, we are going to be digging into a lot of the numbers around East Lake and the Tour Championships. So let's get into it. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter golf gambler and a much better golf DFS player. Go check out fantasynational.com. It gives you all the power at your fingertips to make the optimal lineups, the best wagers. Go check out fantasynational.com. You will not regret it. In the description to the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my Twitter and Instagram, where I posted a lot of research earlier today regarding the staggered scoring format at East Lake. So if you would like to see that research, give me a follow at your preferred social media site, Twitter or Instagram. Twitter or X is also where I place my betting cards for the week on the PGA Tour. If I make any wagers for the Tour Championship, that will come out Wednesday evening after the DFS Tactics show. So if you want to see the weekly wagers that I make on the PGA Tour, give me a follow over at Twitter. And then Twitter is also where I do my baseball content. 3 players that I think will accrue their value in DFS and 3 players that I don't. So if you want to see some quick hitting baseball content, give me a follow over at Twitter as well. That will pick up in the first or second week of September whenever I get back from vacation. And then lastly, for social media, Gabe's Twitter is in the description. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. Highly suggest you go give him a follow and subscribe to that article. It is free to do so. And if you are a member and if you have subscribed to that article, you will be able to join us in his Substack chat as we continue the DFS talk over in his Substack chat after the DFS Tactics show on Calls. So if you want even more DFS talk after Calls, then you'll need to be a subscriber to that article. So go show Gabe some support. Follow him on the Twitter and subscribe to that article. It's a very good read. And then lastly, for this intro, we are live. Chat is open. Have you made any wagers yet for the Tour Championship? I have not. I spent all day just researching to post what I did on social media earlier today. Who do you think has the early advantage at East Lake? Who do you think from well beyond the lead, say -2, -1, or even, has the best chance to make a big run at the Tour Championship? Who are your top pivots, top fades early on in your research this week? So let's dig into the weeds of the data for the 2023 Tour Championship. And we're going to start, as we always do, on a Monday evening over at Windfinder. And as of right now, not a whole lot in the forecast other than the fact that it's hot. High is going to be into the hundreds every day forecast for the tournament. Now Saturday looks like there could be perhaps some rain late in the evening, but not a whole lot of wind, not a whole lot of rain in the forecast. And then here's Sundays for you. But again, just looks like it's going to be hot. I would imagine humid, although I can't speak to that. But not a lot of wind that we need to concern ourselves with yet in the forecast. Of course, we will update this Wednesday evening at the beginning of the DFS Tactics show if the forecast changes. But Eastlake generally doesn't have a whole lot of wind. So with that, we're going to move to Fantasy National. And we have the correct tee time, or the correct players. No Chris Kirk. Matt Fitzpatrick has been added. Let's do a couple of recaps, if you will, from last night's show in terms of a total performance. The first filter that we look at, this is a Don Ross designer. He's credited with designing this, even though he was really the first renovator of Eastlake. This is really a Tom Bindelow design. But on Don Ross Designs, going back all the way to 2019, and again, just a quick refresher on why we're going back to 2019, that is the start of the staggered scoring format at Eastlake. So we're not going to go any further back than that. So if you hear me say debutantes this evening, that means they are a debutante or it's their debut to the staggered scoring format. Maybe not necessarily their debut at Eastlake. Best example of that would be Jason Day, who has not played the Tour Championship since the implementation of the staggered scoring format. Russell Henley is another player that has played Eastlake, not the standards or the staggered scoring format. Keegan Bradley, and there's a couple others. So if you hear me say debutantes, that it just means that they are debuting to the staggered scoring format. But coming back to what we were talking about originally, the best players at the Tour Championship this week on Don Ross Designs, going back to 2019, Russell Henley, Taylor Moore, Tom Kim, Xander, Sung Jae, Victor Hovland, Rory, Terrell Hatton, Max Homa, and Siwoo Kim. And of course, the BMW has now been loaded as well into, that's not the thing I wanted to click on, into Fantasy National, so we'll have those updates as well. That's why we're going to do a quick recap, see how much of top 10s and such have changed from last night. We saw in the course breakdown last night that this is still a ball striking course, and the winners are generally making a whole lot of putts. You could say that about a lot of tournaments, but it is certainly pronounced here for your winners. The putting is overshadowing all of the other strokes gained categories, but off the tee was a significant factor throughout the top 10s, then increased in importance for the top 5s, and then you see it's actually the second most important factor for the winners. So we're going to take a look at a couple of the ball striking metrics here. Let me remove the Don Ross design. Actually, before we do that, let's go ahead and take a look at no-cut events. I talked about this a little bit last week with Gabe, or maybe it was in the FedEx St. Jude DFS Tactics show, but I was hesitant to use no-cut events because they go so far back. The most recent in Fantasy National is the 2021 CJ Cup. So I was a little hesitant to do that, but if you are going to put some weight into that, using the same time frame, going back to 2019, or the beginning of 2019, our top performers in no-cut events have been John Rahm, Rory, Terrell Hatton, Patrick Cantlay, Xander, Matt Fitzpatrick, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, Scotty Scheffler, and Russell Henley. Of course, you see Taylor Moore, even though the BMW is loaded and it was a no-cut event, it has not been given that designation yet in Fantasy National. It will need to, but it hasn't yet. That's why he does not have any stats. I don't want to put much emphasis into this because there are some tournaments that are missing. But if you want to put a little bit of weight into it, at least in a longer term view, see who has generally played no-cut events well. There is your top 10 for no-cut events. So now we'll do a little bit of review here. Let's start with off the tee, and we'll also look at approach. Let me bring the timeline in here. Our top performers in off the tee in the last 36 rounds. Yes, I am cutting it off at January 1st, 2023, but you wouldn't have made it, or these players wouldn't have made it to Eastlake if they hadn't played at least 36 rounds at some point on the PGA Tour. So, in the last 36 rounds, our top off-the-tee players have been Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantlay, Rory, Victor Hovland, Corey Connors, Siwoo Kim, Tommy Fleetwood, Lucas Glover, Tyrrell Hatton, and Colin Morikawa. And in terms of strokes gained approach, Scheffler, Glover, Russell Henley, Colin Morikawa, Jon Rahm, Xander Schauffele, Adam Schenk, Corey Connors, Rory, and Ricky Fowler. Last thing we're going to do in terms of looking at the strokes gained, we are on Bermuda greens, so we're definitely going to be looking at that. And I am going to use the fast and lightning speed filters, as Eastlake had traditionally had lightning speed greens, but starting last year, actually technically starting in 2021 and then all of last year was labeled as fast. So there's not enough of a consensus to put lightning alone or fast alone. So we're just going to use fast and lightning Bermuda. And I believe we have enough rounds. Oh yeah, we got plenty. So in the last 36 rounds, or up to 36 rounds, because I'm going to keep this same time frame here. In the last 36 rounds, as long as it's been in this calendar year, our top putters on fast and lightning Bermuda: Taylor Moore, Ricky Fowler, Adam Schenk, Patrick Cantlay, Russell Henley, Sam Burns, Jordan Spieth, Wyndham Clark, Jon Rahm, and Tommy Fleetwood. You see Jon Rahm only 12 rounds. The Waste Management, Arnold Palmer, Harbor Town, and then the FedEx St. Jude, the first playoff event. Taylor Moore makes a lot of sense. His win at the Valspar, where he gained quite a bit in putting. Let me highlight that area for you. He was just very good that week in general, but his win at the Valspar, also putt well at the RBC Heritage, has been putting very well on fast and lightning Bermuda every single round the past two tournaments, FedEx St. Jude, Wyndham. So your number one putter is Taylor Moore. Ricky, Adam Schenk, always a good putter. So there's a look at our top fast and lightning green, or fast and lightning speed Bermuda green putters at the Tour Championship this year. All right, with that, I'm going to set this and prep this for the next page views. Let me remove these filters, and boy, Fantasy National seems to be struggling a little bit, so we're going to give it a little bit of time here, hopefully. Let's check some of these prior leaderboards. And the staggered scoring format has been going since 2019, last 4 years or whatnot. I'm just looking forward to, or wanting to go through a lot of these, especially since there's only 30 players. I might do all 4 years, because I generally only do 2. Might go through all 4 years since there's only 30 players and really get a feel for what has played well at Eastlake. So last year, let's see. Yep, you'll be able to see about the top 20 or so, which is a good 2/3 of the field. If we highlight here, let's see, we'll go to the top 14 just for ties. So that's, the top half of the field. Off the tee, only a few players negative, but the numbers aren't all that large. Only 3 players negative in approach, and really only Finau was bad. Around the green seemed like it didn't matter. Putting didn't look like it mattered for a whole lot for a lot of the top end guys. Now Rory just put the daylights out last year and caught Scotty Scheffler. Anyway, Joey, thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Have you recovered from this weekend in its brutal test of golf that we were playing? I spent a lot of today sipping on Gatorade and trying not to Charlie horse. But thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. How prepared are you for the Tour Championship? So you see the strokes gained, not a whole lot here for the around the green or even putting. Really, it's really just kind of in the winner from last year. If we sort, now the off the tee doesn't have very large numbers, but you see the correlation of success here. 4th, 7th, 5th, 5th, 1st, 2nd, 2nd is very, very strong, even in a 30-man field. Approach, not terribly, correlating. You got a lot of good finishes, sure, but 21st led it, 13th, so not fantastic by any means. Around the green, not a whole lot at all. And then putting, as you would imagine, John Rahm actually led last year. Rory first or second in putting, but wins. Aaron Wise, Max Homa. So generally, if you're having a hot putting week, you're going to really rise on the leaderboard. Obvious statements are obvious. So looking like off the tee was, at least for last year, the most consistent or most correlating. If we take a look at 2021's strokes gained, probably going to see much more of the same. This is the top 13 due to ties. Now, off the tee for 2021 was not correlating at all in terms of the amount of players that were positive in terms of strokes gained off the tee. Approach was still there, although you do have a little bit higher numbers in here. Around the green, still not much. Patrick Cantley slightly negative in terms of putting, but I mean Dustin Johnson had 9.5 on the greens. So if we sort again, a 14th, we didn't see that from 2020 or last year's 2022's, but 7th, 14th, 1st, and then 2nd is certainly strong. Approach, much more, this looks like the off the tee from last year. 5th, 3rd, 5th, 4th, 1st, pretty strong there. Putting, yeah, actually fairly strong here, other than Sam Burns' 18th, which Sam Burns is just, I mean, it's Bermuda Burns. You got to think about Sam Burns on Bermuda. But, other than him, 8th, 5th, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, very strong there. Yeah, might as well take a quick look at 2020 and 2019. Top 14 again, just for ties. Again, off the tee was not a lot of big numbers in here, but you see the amount of success. If we just narrow it to the top 10, all but one was positive in strokes gained off the tee in 2020. Every other one of these strokes gained categories has several players negative. If we sort, much less correlating, Cameron Champ always going to be off the tee based. That's his main attribute or main strength. Joaquin Niemann never played well at Eastlake. He was very good off the tee in 2020. 8th, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 6th surrounding. So pretty good there. A little bit more correlating up there. Putting. I'm not looking at around the green. Around the green generally doesn't have much of a factor. Well, 2020 looks like it did have a little bit. So if we come back to last year's, let's start looking at some fairways and greens. And at least in terms of the players who had played at an elite level, we saw last night in Microsoft Excel that distance seemed to be the main focal point for the players who had played Eastlake well. So last year, top 14, quite a few negative, actually. Quite a few negative, but your winner, I mean, looks like he just took driver every single time. 114, when the next highest looks like it's a 68. So it looks like, Rory just took driver every single time he could. Not a lot of correlation, but it's always good to see your winner lead in a category. Fairways, these numbers aren't necessarily all that high, and not a lot of correlation here. The other thing that looked like it could be something was greens. Now, you do have Scotty Scheffler that wasn't all that adept at greens in regulation last year, but otherwise, most of this top 14, pretty darn good at greens gained. Yeah, 2nd, 7th, 13th, 1st, 4th, 7th. That's pretty darn strong. If we go to 2021 and look at driving and greens, you'll see, again, Cantley, just the slightest of slight negative in distance, but you have a 125 really high up here. Not as much correlation as I thought it would be, though. It's all in the greens. All in the greens here. So if we sort, a lot less correlating because your winner is, much further down. Greens, 5th, 1st, 5th, 11th, 9th, 9th, 2nd, 7th. So quite a bit of your top 10 in your top elite finishes here. And then 2020 fairways. Okay, so again, much more into the distance. Only 3 players negative, and really Justin Thomas is about field average. Not necessarily the biggest numbers. We've seen hundreds. Dustin Johnson's a 66, Champ is a 72.5, so he's going to throw off the correlation a little bit. But your winner was 2nd, 7th, and an 8th. A little less correlating, but distance still a decent factor, and greens. So what we were seeing last night in terms of elite performers at Eastlake certainly being backed up here in these prior leaderboards. Again, a 20th from Victor Hovland in 2020, but then right after him, 2nd, 5th, 11th, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 7th. Just strong correlation. 2019, at some point, I would think the distance is going to really manifest itself. Just kind of didn't pan out that way. So this is the top 15, exactly half of the field. Your top end, all positive in distance, but again, mostly in the greens here. No correlation really. 29th, 14th, 12th. That's not strong for a 30-man field. All 4 years it's been around the greens. Fairways aren't going to be it. You'll have some players like Ches Reavie, like Answer, that's their game. They have to hit fairways. But in terms of off the tee, you're going to want to focus on your distance players as opposed to your fairways players. So with that, we'll come into this year's field. Our top driving distance players in the last 36 rounds, no filters, just flat out driving distance. In the last 36 rounds, Rory, Jon Rahm, Wyndham Clark, Scotty Scheffler, Taylor Moore, Sam Burns, Victor Hovland, Keegan Bradley, Tyrrell Hatton, and Patrick Cantley. But it looks like the most correlating thing was the greens and regulation gained. So our top greens gained players, and again, no filters here. The rough did get classified to long last year, but it had been average every single year prior to that. You could perhaps make an argument to put the easy scoring to par filter, but there's enough rounds of average in here that I don't feel terribly confident with that. So I'm just not going to be looking at too many filters in regards to metrics tonight. Might have a stronger inclination by the time I make the mixed condition model, but for tonight we're just going to be looking at the last 36 rounds. Our top greens and regulation gained players in the last 36 rounds: Scotty Scheffler, Rory, Lucas Glover, Colin Morikawa, Jon Rahm, Victor Hovland, Corey Connors, Tommy Fleetwood, Xander, and Russell Henley. All right, with that, we're going to go to the scoring. And last night was very interesting in the sense that just like with driving distance and greens gained, the bogeys avoided were the standout metric for the players that had played Eastlake at an elite level. And we're going to see if that holds true tonight. Again, top 14, only one player negative in bogeys avoided, so already we're off to a very good start. Now, the higher numbers are certainly in the birdies gained. 6.7, so your winner led in birdies gained. First, fifth, couple of middlings, and then second, fifth, seventh is strong. But again, I will point you to, let's look at this top 10 here. Nobody who finished in the top 10 last year at the Tour Championship was negative in terms of bogeys avoided. And only one in the top 14 was negative in terms of bogeys avoided. So the more consistent metric has been bogeys avoided. Again, two middlings to lead off the category, but some very, very strong correlation right after it. Second, ninth, 10th, second, fifth, seventh. Very, very good. So the more elite finishes were in the birdies gained, but the more consistent metric was in bogeys avoided, at least for last year. Let's see how that looks year over year. So we'll go back to 2021. Birdies or better. Top 13 here. Much more chaotic. Still looks like slightly in the bogeys avoided, especially like Kevin Na, 8.4. So Cantley was exactly dead even, but then you have bogeys here, bogeys there. So the majority of these players are leaning in the bogeys avoided as opposed to the birdies gained. 4.4, but again, this elite correlation here in the birdies gained. Bogeys avoided, probably better. Probably better until you get to maybe Patrick Reed. So, I mean, just third, second, ninth, fifth, first. So 6 players there that weren't outside the top 10 who led in bogeys avoided, whereas you do have a 14th and an 11th. So it's close. It's very, very close. Still thinking I want to lean bogeys avoided. Again, top 14. Only one player negative in birdies in 2020. Oof, you can't argue that. Second, sixth, first, second, 11th, 8th, 8th. Oh gosh. You can see it's really, really close. Really, really close. Put it in chat, put it in the comments. What do you think? Birdies gained or bogeys avoided? I can see an argument for both. I mean, even though there's 4 players negative in bogeys avoided from 2020, only one of them is really all that bad. It's Harris English, it's 2.2. All these others are 0.2. That's interesting. So for the field this week at Eastlake, in the last 36 rounds, our top birdies gained players. Let's go birdies are better because Eagles do happen a fair amount on these par 5s. You got a 4% eagle rate on the par 5 6th and a 2.5 on the par 5 18th. So let's go ahead and look at birdies are better. So our top birdies are better gained players in the past 36 rounds: Rory, Victor Hovland, Scotty Scheffler, Xander, Ricky Fowler, Wyndham Clark, Max Homa, Tom Kim, Terrell Hatton, Keegan Bradley. If we look at the bogeys avoided, Tommy Fleetwood, Scotty Scheffler, Rory, Brian Harmon, Patrick Cantley, Max Homa, Terrell Hatton, Lucas Glover, Sam Burns, and Victor Hovland. So if we want to look at a combination of both birdies or better and bogeys avoided, you'd want to pay particular attention to Scotty Scheffler, Rory, top 10, actually top 3 in both. Max Homa, 7th and 6th, so top 10 in both. You'd want to emphasize him. Terrell Hatton, top 10 in both birdies are better gained and bogeys avoided. Victor Hovland, 2nd and 10th. But when there doesn't seem to be a clear scoring metric, birdies are better, bogeys avoided, whatever, I kind of like looking at opportunities. So our top opportunities gained players the past 36 rounds: Scotty Scheffler, Lucas Glover, Rory, Colin Morikawa, Xander Schauffele, Victor Hovland, John Rahm, Corey Connors, Sung Jae, and Siwoo Kim. There's your top 10 opportunities gained players. All right, we will move to proximity, and this is one that was really, really interesting because last night in Microsoft Excel we saw that nobody that had averaged a top 10 in the staggered scoring format was negative from 125 to 150. And total procs looked to be a fairly big deal. Well, at least last year, 125 to 150 doesn't look like it's all that correlating. Total procs is, you got some decent numbers here. The 125 to 150 is not. If we sort, not very correlating in terms of elite success though. But the players that were generally highest on the leaderboard were positive in total procs. Take that what you will. 75 to 100, no. So our winner led at 100 to 125, which would make sense because he led in driving distance. So he probably left himself with 100 to 125 approach shots as opposed to 125 to 150s. So that conceptually makes some sense. 125 to 150, no correlation here. No, not really. 150 to 175. Rory was good from this length, but not, nothing standout in terms of correlation. Nope, nothing there. So at least right now, total procs would be it, if anything. Again, 2021, top 13. Your top 7 or so, 6 of them are positive in total procs. So it's going to be something, but it probably isn't a direct correlation. But now, like we were seeing in Microsoft Excel last night, look at this 125 to 150. A lot of players positive here. Even though our winner wasn't, a lot of players positive there. Oh, look at this. Okay, so that's some very strong direct correlation for total procs in 2021. 5th, 11th, 5th, 3rd, 1st, and 2nd's a little bit lower. So that's great to see there. 125 to 150, 5th and a 4th. It falls off considerably right after that, but 5th and a 4th, okay. 200 plus, not the strongest. 2020 and proximity. Interesting to see the winner was negative in terms of total procs, but again, a lot of your better finishes, elite finishes, were positive in total procs, and the 125 to 150 here. 11th, 5th, cools off considerably after that. 20th, 8th. So again, maybe something looking kind of akin to the bogeys avoided, where it's consistent performance, but it's not elite or direct correlation, perhaps, what we're seeing here in terms of the total procs and the 125 to 150. Yeah, I mean, still more of the same. You've got in your top 11, most of these are, especially in the top 7 here, most of these are positive in both 125 to 150 and the procs. It just so happens that they were also positive in 150 to 175 in 2019, the first staggered scoring format. I mean, these are middling finishes, but then right after 6th, 8th, 2nd, 1st, 5th is very strong. Middling finishes and then strong. 125 to 150, much less. See, this was the strongest in 2019. So I do feel comfortable saying that total procs is probably going to be something, but we'll take a look at a couple of different ones. So, in the past 36 rounds, our top total procs players in the field this week: Scotty Scheffler, Lucas Glover, Colin Morikawa, Victor Hovland, John Rahm, Tom Kim, Russell Henley, Rory, Corey Connors, and Terrell Hatton. 125 to 150, I still think is the range, but I'm much less confident in it. Our top 125 to 150 proximity players: Scheffler, Spieth, Rahm, Tom Kim, Russell Henley, Morikawa, Max Homa, Lucas Glover, Corey Connors, and Ricky Fowler. But I'm thinking total procs might be it. All right, let's go through 3s, 4s, and 5s very quickly, because then we're going to go into Microsoft Excel. So par 3 efficiency, I would think that they would matter a little bit since there's only 2 par 5s. But look here, there's not a lot here. Not a lot here at all in terms of total par 3s. I mean, your leader in the category finished 21st. Second, 7th, 7th, 10th, 5th is okay. Reminder, you got 1 from this range and only 1.5. You got 2 in this range and 1 here. So it would be total par 3s if anything. I don't see a whole lot there from last year's in 2021. Again, not a whole lot here. Just 3.8 down here in Louis is the highest that I see, but a 2.8, you got some 0.8s. You sort on it. Yeah, decent finishes, but nothing in terms of extreme correlation. Still looks like the 200 to 225 would be the range you'd want to focus on if you wanted to focus on a range, but I don't think it's correct to do so. 2020's par 3s, geez. This one's actually a little bit higher in terms of the players that are up here on the leaderboard, but your winner was negative. You had, a 29th in Leishman. Just doesn't seem like it's all that imperative, which is counterintuitive to me since there's only 2 par 5s. But that's what I'm seeing here. So our top par 3 performers in the field this week, and it's going to have a very little importance come Wednesday in the mixed condition model: Rory, Lucas Glover, Matt Fitzpatrick, Brian Harmon, Fleetwood, Adam Schenk, Emiliano Grillo, Colin Morikawa, Max Homa, and Scotty Scheffler. We'll move to 4s. This is probably where we'll get a little bit of separation. Again, reminder, we've got 2 in this range here, 4 from 400 to 450, 5, 450 to 5, and then 1 500 plus. Par 4s, but these aren't really all that big in numbers in terms of par 4 strokes gained. But that correlation right after Victor is very hard to argue against. 1st, 4th, 5th, 2nd, 5th, 9th, 2nd. That's very hard to ignore. If we sort on each individual range, okay, I suppose. 354. Take away Cam Smith, Adam Scott, 4 and 450, 450 to 5. You got a 4.6 and a 4 between there. Nothing leaps off the page in terms of strong correlation except for total par 4s. Again, total par 4s. Let's just do the top 10. Only 1 player negative in the top 10. Only 1 player negative in 450 to 5. That seems strong. Oh yeah, 2nd, 3rd, 5th, 5th, 4th, 11th. 450 to 5, 3rd, 7th, 5th. 2 very bad performances there, but a 2nd. Yeah, 450 to 5 was it in 2021. 2020, top 10, only 1 negative in total par 4s, only 2 negative 450 to 5s. Oh, 2nd, 8th, 1st, 2nd, 4th, 8th, 5th, 8th. Much less correlating. 450 to 5s might have, 5% or so, but hopefully you've seen just how much these par fours are. So in the field this week at East Lake, our top par four performers: Rory, Scotty Scheffler, Victor Hovland, Terrell Hatton, Patrick Cantlay, Xander, Tommy Fleetwood, Russell Henley, Corey Connors, and Wyndham Clark. Of the specific range, 455, that same top 10 that I just named, the only one that's not top 10 at 450 to 5s is Russell Henley. That's interesting to see. So Rory, Scheffler, Hovland, Hatton, Cantlay, Xander, Fleetwood, Connors, and Wyndham Clark. 9 of the same 10 that are for total par 4s are also top 10 in a different order, but still 9 of those top 10, 450 to 5s. Okay. Lastly, par 5s, which seem like they're going to carry some weight like they did at the BMW, just because I suppose that's just the best opportunities to really go low, get your eagles. Par 5s, yeah, 1st, 2nd, 11th, 15th, 5th, 5th. There is one supposedly in each range here. There's a very short and a medium length. But they're carrying the same amount in terms of strokes gained total, or the highest strokes gained total in 3.2. Okay. Par 5s from 2021. Again, Cantlay played them the best, along with Billy Horschel. Okay. 2020's par 5s. You got some 2.7s, but very close here. 1.7, 5th, 7th, 1st, 2nd, 4th. They're going to carry a little bit. They're going to carry a little bit of weight, which surprises me. So our top par 5 performers in the field this week: Ricky, Scotty Scheffler, Wyndham Clark, Siwoo Kim, Patrick Cantlay, Tom Kim, Victor Hovland, Jordan Spieth, Colin Morikawa, Rory, and John Rahm. All right, that's going to do it for the Fantasy National portion. Let's go to Microsoft Excel very quickly. And for the first time in seemingly a little while, let's take a look at what I did last year in terms of a mixed condition model. Didn't do this for the BMW because it was a different course. Didn't do this for the FedEx St. Jude because it was a different format, 125 players versus 70. But now we are on even ground, essentially. Same format, staggered scoring, 30 players, yada, yada, yada. So let's take a look at this mixed condition model. Other than Corey Connors, it was fairly good up top. My winner, or the winner was second in my rankings. Obviously very popular. It's Rory. He always plays East Lake generally pretty well. Corey Connors was pretty bad, but Xander, of course, very popular. Finau, top 10s. Cantlay, top 10s. Let's see. I did have Sungjae at 10th in my rankings. Finishes second. So that was good. I did miss some of the big movers, though. As you can see, Homa was 21st. JT was 26th. Straka was 30th. So I did miss a little bit down there. But it's okay. I'd accept this. It certainly could be improved upon, but I don't think this was a horrendous mixed condition model. Let's see what I did. 15% in strokes gained approach, 15% in putting. I would have to imagine that was in Bermuda, but I did not seemingly list the filter, or the filters that I used. So 15% in putting, 15% in greens. Okay, so looks like we're on the right track there. 10% in off the tee. Seems like that is the emphasis that we want to have. I might even switch these two percentages, off the tee and approach. But clearly the emphasis on ball striking and trying to find, a hot putter, or maybe the best Bermuda putter. I went with bogeys avoided last year. I had 10% there. I was looking at procs. 10% there. 10% in par 4s. and I split out each of these two ranges, the 400, 450, and 450 to 5. Don't think 400, 450 really warrants its own consideration. And then I only had 5% in par 5s. That might be a little bit light, but overall, a whole lot of the same metrics that we're looking at from last year to this year. So if we sort on the results on column A, and let's only go to the top 10. We only want to look at the top 10 here. So if we want to see how predictive those metrics were in determining who was going to top 10, we're going to want to find something ideally in the single digits, or as low as maybe 12 or 13 with only 30 players. Maybe 15. Maybe 15 would be okay. Gosh dang it, where's my life at right now? There. Okay. So, if we look at predictive, the strokes gained approach, 13.9. Yeah, I would want it a little bit lower, but certainly not the worst as some of these, as we'll see. Putting, slightly better. Off the tee is the best of the 3 strokes gained that I use. Off the tee was a 13.0, putting 13.8, approach 13.9. So this is really reinforcing the thought process that I want to perhaps put off the tee as the most important strokes gained category this year. Look at greens. Greens gained 12.2. Best we've seen so far. It's the second best overall. Bogeys avoided, not very good. Prox was not very good. Actually, par 4s were not very good at all. And just like I was thinking, 400, 450 is the worst of them all. Does not seem like it warrants separation from just par 4s. Now, the 450 to 5s were pretty good. Third best of all of these metrics that I used. 12.7 versus a 12.2 greens, and the best was par 5s at 11.3. So the best par 5 players coming in, or generally speaking, led to a lot of success. So there's a look at how my mixed condition model looked last year for the Tour Championship, how it performed. I'd say it was decent. And certainly we are going to be able to move some percentages around. We're going to be comfortable taking away, especially this 400 to 450. Maybe bogeys avoided isn't the right thing we want to look at. Maybe we want to look at opportunities. Definitely want to emphasize the off the tee as opposed to approach in terms of strokes gained. But definitely greens is something we're going to want to look at. So it's always good to look at what you did, or at least I like looking at what I did last year, see what worked, what didn't. All right, we're going to finish the show off with the early look file. We did a little bit of this last night, but now that we have seen some of the metrics that we want to focus on for the players who are in the field this week and have played East Lake in the past 4 years, who are the best at some of these metrics. So we're going to start with off the tee. Who's been the best off the tee at East Lake? Clearly Rory. Averaged a 3 each year. Xander, 1.3. Cantley, 1.1. So strong there. Straka was good, very good off the tee last year. Max Homa was very good off the tee last year, but it's only one event or one time. Approach. Who's been the best on approach at East Lake in the past 4 years? Xander, Scotty Scheffler, Colin Morikawa. There's Sepp Straka again. Brian Harmon way back in it was last year, I believe. Corey Connors, although he has been very bad here He is doing Corey Connors things. He's still hitting good approaches. Victor. Surprising to see Rory kind of middling in terms of approach, even though he's been so good. And that's also kind of leading me towards wanting to put a little bit more emphasis in off the tee. All right, putting. Who has putt the best at Eastlake the past 4 years with this staggered scoring format? Ricky, only one time, but he did. He shot +2, but it was he didn't hit very many good irons. He was just putting the daylights out. Sam Burns, again, Bermuda Burns. He doesn't have great finishes to show for it, but he's putting well. Xander, Rory, Terrell Hatton, only one time. John Rahm has putt well here. Patrick Cantley. Scheffler putts well here. It's surprising to see Straka all the way down here at -6. I would have to think he should like Eastlake, and now that he's seen these greens once, I would think he's probably going to be pretty good on them. Let's take a look at greens. Greens gained. We've seen throughout tonight that those are going to be an integral part to who plays well. Our top greens gained players: Victor, Xander, Patrick Cantley. Corey Connors has been good at the greens, but does not have elite finishes to show for it. Sung Jae has been very good. Tommy Fleetwood, that's back in 2019, I believe. John Rahm, 2.1. Okay. I'm just going to skip the scoring. I'm actually going to skip the par 3s as well. Let's go to par 4s. I want to do 4s, 5s, and proximity. So top strokes gained, par 4s. Look at that. 2 best players that have played the past 4 years here are by far and away your best par 4 players here at Eastlake. It's going to be a pretty big deal. Max Homa, Tony Finau's played them well. John Rahm has played them well. Fitz played them well as 1 year last year. Spieth, okay. Cantley's been good. So par 4s carrying quite a bit of weight. Par 5s. And then I do want to look at total procs. So strokes gained par 5s. Terrell Hatton, Scotty Scheffler, Patrick Cantley, Finau. So you see, like Rory and Xander, this is why I didn't think par 5s would carry much weight, because, you know, the 2 best players are only carrying 0.7s on average each year. But I mean, they're still playing them well, so you're gonna, you know, you can't ignore them. That's why I didn't think par 5s were gonna matter all that much. And then lastly, let's take a look at total procs. Gosh dang it. Procs total. That one. So our best total procs players. Again, our leader in actual score, you know, without starting strokes. Leading procs total. Tommy Fleetwood's been good. Straka, who made a big move last year. Scheffler, who's been very good. Harman, Rahm. Rory has, you know, been, you know, pretty. I can't say bad. He's still gaining, but surprising to see that he's, you know, lower of the 20 that have played before. But there you go. There's a look at some of the players who have performed well at some of the metrics that we have been looking at and we think are going to have significant impact on who plays well this week. I'm going to end the show off showing you a little bit of some of the research that I did today. We'll take a look at the winner matrix. So for players, again, this is all based on the staggered scoring format. So, of course, you know, 2019 Rory, no one, you know, the implementation of the staggered scoring format, Rory started at -5 and then wins. DJ finished next to last the year prior and then wins. Patrick Cantley didn't even play Eastlake the year prior to winning and didn't play it all that well. Rory's been pretty darn good at Eastlake. So former success in this staggered scoring format isn't really all that indicative of success. That's what I wanted to show with that. Don't mind this. This is just kind of the 2019 leaderboard and what I was using to do some of the research. But what I'll end you off on, and I'll zoom in on it so it's more of a focal point. Let's take a look at the average starting scores. So if you start at -10, if you come in leading the Tour Championship, the best someone has shot has been -11. That was DJ and Patrick Cantlay. They both won. But you're averaging going to -18. You've not been... let me remove this one. This one actually didn't turn out to be all that good of a column. You're averaging an 18th, or being -18, and your average placement has been third. Or actually, it's second, excuse me. Where is that info? No, I didn't. I put it on social media. So make sure you check that out if you're interested. But the average placement here is second. You haven't been any worse than third if you start at -10. If you start at -8, the best anyone has been is -17. You've actually only averaged gaining 3.5 per those years. Now, there's an extreme outlier here, and it was 2019 when Patrick Cantlay started at -8, actually went +9 and finished +1 on the tournament. He just had a very bad week. So it's a bit of an outlier there, but it does affect the average. If you are -7, you've actually averaged losing strokes, I believe. That's because of Will Zalatoris. Let's see. So average here, 13, 18, and 8. That's a -13. I apologize because I had Will Zalatoris still in it. So you've averaged a -13. So really the -7s have played much better than the -8s have in the 4 years. Again, this has a little bit of an asterisk because this has Will Zalatoris. He withdrew last year, who was -7. -6, best someone has gone as to is -20. But the average has been -7. See, Patrick Reed actually went +1. Webb Simpson only went -3. Now, John Rahm went -14, comes in second in 2021 from -6. And Scheffler, wrong column. Xander went -12. So, good stuff there. Shooting -7. -5s, -4s. When you get down to the -1s and even pars, they have not made a lot of noise. Generally speaking, they haven't made a lot of noise. -2s have. -3s some. But once you get to the -1s and even pars, I mean, you're, -1, someone actually shot 13 under to make a little bit of a move. But that's so much ground that you have to make up. It's just really, really hard. So I'll leave you off with that. Of course, I put a whole lot of information out on social media. If you are interested, give me a follow at the links in the description, Twitter and Instagram, your preferred social media site, around, starting scores, debutantes, the 10 debutantes that we have this week. Let me scroll over to them. So these 5 players have played East Lake, but not in the staggered scoring format. Emiliano Grillo, Jason Day, Keegan Bradley, Russell Henley, and Siwoo Kim. Those 5 have played East Lake, but not with the standards or the staggered scoring format. We have 5 true debutantes at East Lake: Adam Schenk, Nick Taylor, Taylor Moore, Tom Kim, and Wyndham Clark. But with that, I'll leave you off with the traditional early look file. That's going to do it for the Data Dive show. Want to thank Joey for jumping in chat. I appreciate that, and I appreciate everyone else out there who supports the channel by liking the videos, commenting, subscribing, and supporting the channel in the ways that you do. Always appreciate it. Love looking at in-depth statistics, sports statistics, and trying to win a little bit of money in the process. And if you have success and you're a member of this community, whether you use a little of the information I give or a lot, please let me know. Reach out in the comments of videos. Reach out to me on social media. Would love to be able to shout out more members of the community who have success. Quick reminder that this week, with this being the Tour Championship, calls will be off for a week or two. I'll come back with the Fortinet calls proper, but I'm also going to be starting Kick, and that'll start the first week of September. So if you want to see different content, much more laid back, a little bit of gaming, all that stuff, then give me a follow over at Kick. But thanks again for all of the support. Very much appreciated. For all the wagers you have made so far this week for the Tour Championship, for all the wagers you're thinking about making this week for the Tour Championship, and until I see you Wednesday night for the DFS Tactics show, may all your bets be profitable.